Hey, this is Bob, and this is
I'm Dr. Shefali
how
Miglani.
you doing? Specialty care changed her life.
Yes, well, it did for sure, but it started about 11 years ago.
Okay, tell me what happened.
Well, I had my third kid and I was in my private practice, optometry practice, really, really
Yeah.
hard, doing everything like everybody else does on a hamster wheel, seeing patients one after the other, 30 patients a day,
Mhm.
and it was terrible. I took all vision insurances under the planet. I still do some.
You were exhausted.
I'm exhausted. I
No,
didn't
you
have
were exhausted.
time.
You were exhausted. You had no time. I remember you coming home. You're like, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm sick and tired of getting
I was ready.
forty bucks for an eye exam. And it's like, and then you got to deal with the Google reviews and the patient's like deductibles. It's like, oh my God, what a hassle. What did
I
you sign up
know,
for?
I know. I came home and I was just really, really tired. I remember that one in 2013, I got this terrible review about some contact lens fees, and it was just like an iMed issue. And I came home and I just had, I don't know, I had two kids at that time, and I said, Bobby, I am done. I am done with this. I should have never got into optometry school. I should have never done optometry. I should have done
Right,
dentistry.
right, right.
And you kind of talked me off the ledge at that point because
Yeah.
my practice was about, I don't know, 4 or 5 years old, and it was really hard, like really hard. And it's just I was like, I have to do something about this.
Yeah.
I started looking into, I don't know, exiting, selling my practice, working for corporate
Yeah.
lens crafters or
Right,
whatever.
right, right.
And I said, what am I doing? I have two kids. I'm going to lose my quality of life. I can rewrite my chapter again.
Yeah.
I can do things in optometry that I know is possible that we weren't really trained to do
Yeah.
in optometry school. And I say, you know what? I really like, I was
Well, you
noting
saw a
to,
need. You saw a need. You
well,
saw all
yeah,
these kids come in
yeah.
and they needed. So what happened was we were over at dinner. It was like, it was like I can't go on vacation because if I go on vacation, I'm not going to make any money.
Well, even when we did go on vacation, I was on
So I
my
was, yeah.
phone. I was on calling the
So
staff,
you
and
were
it was
always
just like,
attached and never got a break. You
yeah,
were exhausted, overwhelmed, underpaid,
totally burnt out.
undersat and not satisfied and burnt out.
Yeah.
And then, you and I started talking. I'm like, what's going on? Like, what is going on? As a good spouse, you kind of help your spouse in her business, right? And so you're like, what's going on? And you're like, well, I've got this thing. And I said, well, what's the solution? What are we doing? What are you going to do?
Well,
And
I
that's where you
remember
go in
I
and then
I
figuring out.
attended a seminar in for continuing education, and I heard about myopia, and I said, well, this is interesting. And he talked about the myopia patients, and that's a specialty care, and it was lenses, and I really would like to work with my hands, and and I said, well, this is really interesting. If I can bring this into my practice, I don't have to maybe not see as many. It wasn't about making more money. It was actually, how do I free myself from this, 30 patients a day, one after the other. Even though I love patient care, I just I just wasn't ready to do it. I
Yeah.
wasn't ready to sacrifice my life
For
five
doing it.
days a week,
Well, I
spin
figured it
week,
has to. Yeah.
Saturdays,
Yeah.
and seeing that and not having enough energy to come back to my kids and talk to them, spend time with them. It was like, this is not, I can't do this. I was
Yeah.
like, at that point, I was like 35 years old.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I said, I can't do this forever. I have to change something. So I said, I'm going to start doing myopia. Well, you know,
Myopia is a specialty problem, and more kids have this problem. So the market is growing. So it's a specialty, that was evolving in
mhm.
optometry at the time. And it paid a lot more. The potential people talked about was instead of, first of all, because it's not covered by insurance, people have to pay cash out of pocket.
Yeah.
And they were talking about $2,000 a patient you would potentially earn if you were to take care of that patient in a specialty care setting
Well, yeah, at that time.
at
But
the
since
time.
then, the fees have gone up.
Now it's like 5 grand, 6 cents, seven thousand
Well,
dollars,
whatever it
whatever,
is. Yeah.
whatever it is. But the idea is that, oh, look here, you could pivot into special. You were a disillusioned doctor. Would
hmm
you call yourself a disillusioned doctor at
I
that time?
was.
Okay, you were disillusioned. She was disillusioned. Okay,
I was
I'm
tired.
sorry. All right, you go. Okay, you were tired, and then you're like, okay, I want to serve this new niche. And I remember going to a couple of conferences with you. I'm like, what is this thing? I no one's heard of it. And then you learned what happened. So you decided to do it. You
Well,
made a decision.
I made a decision and I said, you know what? I can work a lot less and do the same thing or something even more interesting. You
Yeah.
see, you really need everybody needs certainty in their life. They need to know that they can go in
Yeah.
and they're going to see those VSP IMED patients. But then I said, well, this is, I need some variety in my life where I can actually see something interesting, create something interesting, have an impact, change somebody's life. And that vision really drew me closer to the executionable steps that I took next because I kind of imagined this future where I knew the journey was going to be hard.
Yeah.
But I was ready to go on that journey because I knew that if I was on this path, 10 I would not last on this path 10, 15 years.
Yeah.
I would be spinning my wheels for
Yeah.
low profit
Yeah.
and really high energy expenditure and then wait for an exit
Yeah.
later on to sell my practice for pennies on the
Yeah, I
dollar
yeah.
because it really is invaluable.
Yeah.
And so I created this vision and I said, you know what? I'm ready to walk on that path. It is going to be a difficult path. The certainty path was straight, but the uncertainty path of
Yeah.
taking on myopia patients was a little windy
Yeah.
and unknown and into the forest. And I said, you know what? I'm just going to go and
Yeah.
go. And thank God I had your support because you said go on, because it would mean sacrificing the immediate returns,
Yeah. Yeah.
immediate,
No,
I
there's
needed
pain
to,
because you're not going to make money right away.
yes,
I mean,
yes.
I looked at it. She looked at it from a specialty, like a doctor view, which is I can help these patients and shift my practice into this direction. I look at it like, dude, if you play this movie out for 10 years, screwed. It's big trouble
Yeah.
because primary care is dying. I just looked at the market. I was like, primary care is dying. It dies in everything, and then you have to shift. Always have to specialize in some
Well,
way.
you have to innovate.
You have to innovate.
You
You
have
got to
to
innovate. You
innovate,
got to.
yeah.
So you made I think one tip I'd like share is you made a decision as a doctor. You're like, I'm deciding
Yeah.
this is what I'm going to do,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm going to just learn. And so you went to it. So what happened? So you went. Tell us what happens
Well,
next after you make that
well,
decision.
in the meantime, I know we got pregnant with a third.
Of course we did.
And and I had already made a decision, so I wasn't gonna
Okay.
waver. And I had the baby and 6 months into the baby, I committed to going on to something called Vision by Design meeting. And that's
It's a
usually,
conference
yeah,
for
it's a
specialty care for myopia.
for myopia.
Yeah, it's a myopia care niche specialty conference.
Yes.
It had I went with you. Did I go with you first?
No,
No, I
no.
didn't go. Okay, you went on your own.
Yeah, I went on my own
And you learned a lot.
but I actually, funny thing, you have to burn your boats. So I said, I am going to go to the web to this conference and learn. But what I did was I signed up my first patient,
Right.
Yasmin.
Right.
I won't
Right.
share the last name for her privacy. Yazzie was my first patient.
You said yes
Yes,
before
I
you
said
know how to
yes.
do it.
Yes. And I
So you
said, I'm
said
going
yes
to,
before
yes.
you knew how to
And
do
I
it.
disclosed it. I disclosed to the parent. And parents were doctors. Both are doctors.
Tough customers.
Tough customers. And I said, but I'm going to do this for you. I'm going to learn everything.
Yeah.
She's going to be my first patient, and I'm going to come back. And I think that was in May or June.
Right.
And
I remember you
the
saying, "How am I
conference
gonna do
was,
this?"
yeah, the
You're
conference
like,
was in September.
Yeah.
And I said, give me a few months.
Yeah.
And as soon as she goes into, I don't know, at that time it was like seventh grade or something, I said, I'm going to start her treatment. I'm going to burn all my boats. And I dedicated that summer to learn everything I could about myopia. Went to the conference, came back with the tool set, came back with the trial fit set and all that stuff. And I fit my first patient.
Yeah.
And that was
Yeah.
I was like, wow, I can't believe I just did this. I had no idea
Right.
how to do
And I was like, wait, you're gonna fake it till you make it. I remember saying that to you, and he's like, you're gonna fake it till you make it to this new specialty care.
Well,
And you're like, no,
doesn't
I don't fake
everybody?
it. Well, no, but you're like, I remember you're like, doctors don't fake it. I'm
No,
like,
you
I need to
fake
learn.
it,
No,
yes.
I mean, you can aspire to it, but even if you don't know, you've got to commit so that you forces you to go. Because what you did was you commit. To me, I look at it like you made a commitment to somebody. You weren't faking it. You were honest, in the sense that you were telling them, look, I'm just getting into the specialty and I'm going to do the best I can with your child. Absolutely give her my 100%. And then you went on this journey because you had that one customer one, patient number
Yes,
one,
yes.
patient one.
Yeah, that I promised
And you
something.
promise, and then you're forced to kind of go and deliver to that.
Yes, yes. And I treated her, and after that, that was my first patient, and then I got confidence. See, the thing about doing something new is that you do it once and it's hard, but then when you do it well, or even if you don't do it well, you learn from it and you pivot and you correct yourself. It gives you confidence to do something harder the next time or take on something. Things get easier, and then you feel like you're on a roll, and
Things do
then
get easier. Yes, they get
yeah,
easier. No, you get momentum.
you get into the
Yeah, you get
momentum. You will
momentum for
hit
sure.
roadblocks, but it's definitely makes you feel proud of yourself because it's who you become. It's you became, I was an optometrist with an OD. Now I'm like, I can do something that's impactful for kids. And it
Yeah,
was really exciting.
yeah.
It was really exciting. And now I could see a vision for my practice 5, 10 years down the road that looked completely different. I had a compelling future.
Right.
I had a
Good
compelling
hope. Good
future
hope.
that it would give me more energy to get up in the morning and get dressed and come to work because I was like, wow, my schedule doesn't look like, and look, my schedule wasn't booked with myopia patients in the beginning. I followed a
It was hard.
rule.
It was
It
hard.
was
It
hard.
was hard. It was
I
hard.
blocked the
For sure.
schedule for myopia. If I didn't get the patient, I would sit idle, and I took that time to learn about myopia,
Yeah.
read papers, etc. Did marketing.
Well, I remember that. I remember we did a lot of, you're like, oh my God, how am I going to educate these patients, these parents of the child who's the patient? Child is the patient. Your parents make a decision. And we started on this journey. You were like, okay, you did the first patient, but then you're like, I want to do more. And then you had this tools and the learnings you
Yeah.
had from the conferences, but then there was a problem, execution. You're like, how do I execute all this? How do I create a brochure? How do I create a form
Well,
that the
marketing was a
contract?
problem. I knew how to execute the science of
Right,
it
right, right.
at and it wasn't the execution. I didn't know how to get more patients or how to communicate with them so that they would convert. When I would have that conversation with them in the comprehensive
Mhm.
exam, I would talk ad nauseum about the science and the risks of
The
myopia.
patients are like,
And the parents were, this was 10 years ago, and parents were like,
"Mhm.
this
What are
doctor
you
is,
talking about,
yeah,
Willis?"
like,
Like, yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's like they're
like I'm
deer
here
in
just to,
headlights, deer in
yeah,
headlights. Yeah, yeah,
I'm just here to get glasses. So what? My
yeah.
child's vision is getting worse. And you see, the thing is, they didn't share my same passion.
Yeah.
They didn't, and we weren't in synchrony. And I failed to recognize early on into the practice that you really, with your customer, you have to be synchronous. You have to enter their world, and you have to, and this is after years of kind of pondering and asking the right questions because of failure. But in the meantime, you said to me, I know that, well,
Well, what happened
I got a
was,
terrible review
yeah,
again,
yeah,
yet
yeah.
again on Google. It's still there. And
And is the parent is
the
like,
parent,
I never heard of this thing, this
yeah,
specialty thing you're
the
doing.
doctor scaring,
Yeah,
uh,
not just specialty. There's no such thing as a specialty. She's inventing this stuff, hokey pokey, and it was like a slam in the face. And this is over dinner, and you're like, I don't want to do this anymore. How do I like? I'm like this. I said, Shwala, I said, look, this is not a. I said, how are you educating patients? So this is over dinner, over with our kids. Our kids know a lot about conversion, this, right, and marketing and
yeah,
science, right? But
yeah.
they're like, how do you educate your patients? You're like, well, no, I have this clinical study that I'm giving them, and I'm
Mhm.
going to talk about, how the eye does this and that. I'm like, you lost me at clinical study because I'm like, rule number one in sales, nobody cares about you.
Yeah. Well, you
They
came from
care
the
about,
pharmaceutical.
I
I
came from
remember you came from
marketing.
the
Yeah,
Pfizer
yeah,
pharmaceutical sales
yeah,
background
yeah,
and
yeah,
marketing background, and you knew a thing or two
yeah,
about
yeah.
medical marketing.
Oh, yes, medical marketing. That's right.
Yes.
It's a little different than,
Right.
yes,
And so it's a mix of the data and it's a mix of
that's
psychology.
right.
And so I remember you told me to write up a script for a video. Okay, you know what?
Well,
Tell
before the
me.
video, we tried a lot of other things. We tried,
Yes, we tried the
so we
trifold.
tried, yeah. So she's like,
Yeah.
make a trifold that educates patients
Yes.
about this thing. So I went to Vistaprint and I downloaded a picture on Shutterstock or whatever the photo site. I paid for like $10 for a photo of a little girl with an iPad. It was so beautiful.
I
I put it
remember.
on the trifold brochure. It took me like a month and a half to make a brochure
Yeah.
for your specialty, service for offering for the patients. And then I would find it was beautiful. It was like art, like a purplish,
I
color,
remember. Yeah.
trifold. It was really perfect. It was really, really good.
Yeah.
I thought about the language. I tested it. This is before ChatGPT, by the way.
Yeah.
And then we
The
started
way
using it.
you would go to your sales office when you were
Yeah,
a sales
yeah.
rep
When I
at
was selling the
Kaiser,
doctors, when I
you
was
would
selling the
have, what
doctors.
do you call it, sell sheet
Oh,
or
it's called VisAid, a visual aid.
yeah, visual
Visaid.
aid.
Yeah,
Right.
Visaid. Yeah.
Right.
So in pharmaceutical sales, in any kind of sales, you have to have visual aids where you present data, you present evidence, you present faces of people so that there's proof of what you say is true.
Right.
Okay.
Right. So I did
You
that
did that, and what happened?
and it didn't work.
Didn't
I
work.
saw it in my garbage can
I saw it.
on the way outside.
I'm like, it broke my heart seeing that brochure
Yeah.
that we spent like 3 months doing in the trash bin of her off in the waiting room. I was like, oh my God. And then I remember I said, you got to ask these parents, like, are they not reading it? They're like, oh, I left it in the backseat of the car. And it
Yeah.
just,
Well, they would never come back. And I said,
yeah,
well, did you read the brochure?
yeah.
And they said, well, they feel guilty. They feel bad. They're like,
They're like,
oh, yeah,
read it.
yeah, we read it. But, well, they weren't coming back. So I was getting some myopia patients, but it wasn't what I had imagined. And I think it was into like it now 3 years in doing myopia or something
Yeah,
like
yeah. And
that.
then that's where we're like, okay, you
And
know what?
that's when I remember
Yeah,
if it was after like I think one dinner
yeah.
we were having at home and the kids went to bed and you said, let's go downstairs, let's shoot a video on
Man.
our iPhone, on your
Well, no,
iPhone.
no, not the iPhone. It was actually, I had a camera. I had
Oh, you
a
had a
setup.
camera. Yes, yes,
No,
yes.
because I was an author. I wrote some books, a couple books. So I wrote a bunch of books and I learned how to do marketing as an author. And one of the big things I learned is videos, videos, videos. And this was years ago. And so I created, I had a green screen in my basement
Yes, I
and it
remember.
was stupid. It was a curtain-ish kind of a thing. And you had to cut clips to hold it tight.
It worked.
So it didn't have shadows in the background. It was like so like ridiculous.
Well, those videos are still up
They're
on
still,
YouTube,
they are, and they're very powerful.
and I still get patients
Just still
from
get
that.
patients from that. So I said, you know what? Let's shoot the video. And
Yeah.
then then the problem was when you shoot a video, it's like, what do you say? And so I'm like, we have to have a really clear script.
Yeah.
And so we would write the script.
Well, no, I would write the script
Yeah, and then
because you didn't know anything about
right,
myopia,
right,
obviously the science of it, right? And so and I would give it to you, and you basically figuratively you would be like,
I was like,
"Look at my face."
I'm like, I can't read this stuff.
And
I was like, what is this?
it makes
I'm
perfect
like,
sense.
this is all Greek to me.
Yeah.
I'm a sales and marketing guy. I'm
Yeah.
like, what are
So
you trying to tell me?
and
It was like it was written as if it were a clinical study. Oh, abstract. This is what we did. This is what we did. I'm like, where's the conclusion? Oh, it's on the third
it wasn't
page.
abstract, but
It was like
it
a
was
third
about
page. The
what
conclusion was on as a doctor, I know that's how you think. You think in this way,
yeah, the
where
data first, the conclusion, and the
can.
action.
As
But
a
you
business
said
guy,
you got to do the action, the vision
I'm
first,
like,
and
no,
then
you
you
have to
go
do the
backwards.
outcome
Yes,
first.
well, that's what, yeah.
Yeah, you have to do like, what's the point? Result first. So it's like result and
Mhm.
then talk about it. So we
Yeah.
changed up the way we wrote the script.
Yeah.
Then we shot the videos. Then we had another problem of like shooting the videos. And it's like, well, how should we shoot? Because I would have her just memorize it, a good like first two paragraphs. And it was like, you were
Well,
like, you froze. You're like, what's the next? Oh, I forgot
yeah.
this thing.
Well,
We did so
so
many takes.
what I want to give
Yeah.
what I want to give to the listeners is that I think you have to walk in the footsteps of the people, successful people. That's how you shorten the journey of success.
Yeah.
We've kind of done that. We've invented that. So, who cares about how we did the videos and stuff?
No, but
But
what's important is that we tried a lot of different things.
yes.
And we realized that you have to reach your customers how they want to be reached, which is which is on this device. We
Mhm.
learned that.
Yeah.
And in the manner by which they wish to receive that information.
Yeah.
and that,
Well, you
right? It was
know,
like they want simple, clear,
right.
concise information from their
And
doctor to them,
and I
and
cut
that,
down so many visits or
yeah,
so much of a chair time into 90 minutes of where I said, I'm gonna have this 90-minute time frame with them to do the consultation, but before that I'm going to send them these videos pre and then post, and then 90 minutes, those 90 minutes that I spend, I still do
in
that.
the exam room, in the
I
chair,
still do
yeah,
that.
in the
It's
consultation.
the most powerful 90 minutes. If I do that, I literally don't have to do anything for the rest of, I don't know, next few days. Because if I do that and I knock it out of the park and they sign up, the rest of the stuff is automated for me.
Yeah.
So you know, after a while, the lens companies are going to teach you that you're going to get good at designing a lens. You're going to get good at troubleshooting
Whatever
it
the specialty
yourself,
care, yeah,
whatever
the specialty
specialty
care,
care
you're
you
right.
do. But then that, you know, it compressed well, it made my life so much easier where I had this time to spend with the patient. I've developed a process that worked for patient. I studied their psychology. Good thing was I was a psychology major in college. At the time, I thought, I mean, after some time, I thought it was a kind of a BS major that I did because it was a stepping stone for, I knew I was going to go to med school or optometry school. And, but it really came in handy because it kind of gave me the foundation of understanding how people think and how I can modulate, how I can make their decision making affect
Mhm.
their, you know,
Yeah.
make that impact on their decision
All right, hold
making.
on, time out, hold on. Okay, so what you're saying, you're using a lot of fancy words. Okay, I think about it like you have a patient who is not informed or aware of the problem and the treatment. That's my view right now.
Yes.
The question is how best to make that customer, the patient, be educated. So what we learned, the number one thing is that instead of pushing or influencing or pushing or marketing to the patient that treatment, that's that problem, that solution, which is pushing, is you've got to educate. You've got to
Hmm.
give them something of value so they understand what's going on enough so that when they come in to see you, they're primed, pre-educated, and they make a decision.
And they're bonded with me
They're bonded with you.
already. See, if you people are creatures of habit. And let me give you an example. You're, I don't know, you're in a different town and you need to go get groceries. Even though the grocery store is right next to you, but you're not familiar with the aisles, you're not going to go there. You're actually going to make the time to go back to your town to go to that grocery store. The same thing. The videos, what I realized was that the videos had them bonded to me.
Yeah.
So it wasn't about price comparison, what fee comparison with other doctors. They knew, they saw me as a subject matter expert. The video served as a tool to showcase that I was a subject matter expert.
Right.
And also, it showed that I cared enough to take the time out to do the videos.
Yes.
And it showed to them that I knew what I was talking about.
Yeah.
Before they came in to see me, before they had interest, or when they had that exploratory call with my front desk, I would send them the videos, and it would make a huge difference.
Yeah.
Huge difference
Yeah.
in the conversion of people.
Right.
And I was like, wow.
Well, initially, yeah, go ahead. The
Yeah.
wow is very important.
Yeah, the wow was like, I can't believe they signed up.
They signed up.
And I would
Right.
come back again. I can't believe they signed up.
Right.
And it was everything right that I was doing.
Yeah.
I was in flow because of the videos but again, going back to the videos, there was many edits, there were many versions of it. Some versions worked, some versions didn't
Yeah, but
work.
the algorithm, well, here's the other thing we learned,
Yeah.
right, in that whole thing. First of all, you have to have a good process, right?
Yeah.
You cannot try, if you're a doctor who is like, you're a general practice or a primary, you're some sort of care you're doing, and then you're pivoting into specialty care, you're a little bit of specialty care. So you need that flow of patients coming in, right?
Yeah.
So dentists do cleanings all day long, optometrists do eye exams all day long, for example. And then, but you find something. Hey,
Mhm.
your child has myopia. You need this cleaning, this restorative dental. You need some veneers or whatever. You find the thing, and then most doctors try to push and convert in that one visit, and
Mhm.
that's a mistake because patients are like, what just happened?
Yeah. They
I
need
just
time
came
to
in.
simmer.
They need time to simmer. They need time to educate. And so, so we learned number one, the process is very important. Is you can't try to convert and focus and push the product and treatment in the first visit, first touch. 15 minutes. Typical patients would be like, Doc, I just came in for an eye exam and
Hmm.
glasses. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Myopia, dude. It's like way too much. And then you're trying to talk to me about pricing and oh, it's out of pocket, by the way, $2,000. And by the way, this, by the way, that. Like, whoa. So you can't do that in the first things. At first, you have to have a process. You have to have a system for that. But then second is the videos go between the first visit and the second visit. What we learned was we were first trying to solve the problem with just one video.
Hmm.
Long ass video with for like 7 minutes, and it had like so much, and it was like, here's a treatment. And remember when we started doing the Ortho-K lenses, like here's the Ortho-K beautiful lenses, and patients are like, no, didn't
Yeah.
sign up
Yeah.
because nobody cares about your solution.
Yeah.
They care about
About
the
their
problem.
problem.
And they didn't even understand they had a problem in the first place.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we switched it and we said, oh, we need to have, and you came up, you were a psychologist, you were like,
You need to build
you
trust
need to
first.
build trust. And so it's not just one video, but a series of videos that go out to the patient, three of them, let's say,
Hmm.
in a week to 10 days, because they just were interacting with that doctor. And those videos were problem, problem, problem. And then, by the way, here's my solution.
Yeah.
And
Right.
that you called it stacking.
Yeah.
You said humans in your psychology major.
Learn with stacking. You kind of stack the learning on top of each other. If you tell somebody about, I don't know, let's talk about, I don't know, nowadays AI,
Yeah.
they may not know anything, but they if they lean into it and they learn little bits and pieces
Yeah.
every day, every week, they can become an expert.
Right.
Just so my job was to make the parent an expert in myopia. So they knew
Yeah.
all the answers. They could teach somebody else
Right.
what I was teaching them. So they knew they would come for the treatment. They would want the
Ask the
treatment.
treatment. Yeah,
Yeah,
because
they
they're
would
so
ask. Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
In our business, we call it drip marketing.
Yeah.
Sequencing messages. She
Mhm.
called it stacking. I called it drip marketing, is because you don't expect the customer to eat a whole pizza pie. You eat it one slice at a time. So that was
Yeah.
the idea. And so that was our learning. And so then we made a series of videos and it would be dripped slowly over time. And then that would educate the patients. The patients would come in pre-educated, primed. And also, big thing we learned was that there's a decision maker
And a collaborator.
and a collaborator. What's a collaborator, Shafali?
So usually with a set of parents, one person is a decision maker. You can call it they wear the pants in the family. But the other one, they can't really make the decision unless they have a yes from their wife or husband. So the other one is the collaborator, and the collaboration usually happens at home. And you need to give them space to do that collaboration at home and give them time and space to do that with the message because they'll forget what you told them in the exam room,
Yeah.
but they'll go back to and refer to the video that you sent them and say, look, honey, watch this video because the doctor, little Johnny has this problem and the doctor said something about this lens and nighttime lens and I don't know, but why don't you take a look at
Yeah,
it
yeah,
and
yeah.
vet it?
Yeah.
It's basically the decision maker is saying, maybe it's the mom or the dad,
They need
saying to the
help. They
husband
need help.
or the wife, yeah, you know
Yeah,
what?
what do you think? Check
If,
this out. Yeah.
again, creating synchrony in the decision making for their child. So that needed to happen at home and you need to give them time. So I also adjusted the process or the timing of the visits in my office. The logistics of patient
Yeah.
care and how they would how when I would have the second touch, the third touch, etc. with them. I started doing, and then I had during COVID, or right after COVID, I said, I can't have them in the office too much. Let's do a call with them.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh,
So
that changed
change everything.
everything.
Change everything.
Yeah. So I would do a Zoom call with the parent, after the first exploratory call or the first comp. And that was a game changer because I would have given them all the videos. That was their homework. And then I would sit down with them. And that's where the first meaningful conversation happened between the doctor and the customer. And that's is another point we can talk about another time. The child is not your customer. The parent is your customer.
Well, I look at it, so in many specialty practices, you may not have kids, but you want to pivot into specialty care and you have adults,
Yeah.
right? Like dry eye disease, right?
Mhm.
I learned something very important. Healthcare decisions are made in the kitchen and in the bedroom.
Bedroom.
When the kids are asleep, you get a chance to talk to your spouse. You're like, hey, what's going on?
Yeah.
What happened today? Oh,
Maybe
it's on the
like 5
doctor.
minutes before you start
Yeah.
watching Netflix.
Yeah,
Like we
right.
all do that,
Right. She
right?
and I in bed, like watching Netflix or your phone or whatever, Instagram, she does
Oh,
Instagram.
come
I watch
on.
stuff. Okay, whatever. Okay,
You're on
not the point.
LinkedIn.
Okay, fine. I'm on LinkedIn. Kill me for me. So we're looking at our phones and we're like, what happened to the doctor today? Oh, the doctor told me I have high cholesterol. Really? What should I be doing? Oh, you should send me a video. This is the video. This is the
Mhm.
video. That's what we were doing it, right? So it's kind of like that's how and the spouse is like, hey, I think it makes sense. Go ahead, do it, So typically what you want is the patient, or somebody who's a decision maker saying to the collaborator, the spouse, hey, I'm thinking about, or the doctor says I have this problem, and their solution is $2,000
Yeah.
out of pocket.
You
And
know,
then somebody says, what's the proof? What do you know? Like, tell me the why, just justify this for me. And then the patient pulls out the phone and says, here, this is the thing, and sees the video of the doctor. It's like, looks good.
I recently, can I share? I had
Yes.
an aha moment
Okay.
recently about,
You're going to share it anyway. Can I share?
well, what happens is something that when they see you on this phone and they keep seeing these videos, you get what's something called a celebrity effect.
Ooh.
And when they come in, the child is kind of mesmerized that they're
Yeah.
seeing the celebrity.
Yeah.
And you're not a celebrity. You're just
A doctor.
you put the video out, you
Yeah.
got a couple of lights and you have the iPhone and you put this fake grass in the back and
Okay.
you're shooting the video.
Right.
Right? And you get a celebrity effect. So when I started doing the videos the right way,
Yeah.
I used to enter the room and I kid you not, both the parents would stand up like, hi, Dr. Milani. And the parent would be, the child would be like looking at me like,
Yeah,
with starry eyes.
Right.
And it makes a big difference. It creates a celebrity effect, which is really powerful. But you better deliver on that celebrity effect. So what you do next in the exam room and how you carry them through the treatment, because it's a long journey. It's sometimes, most often it's 10 years. And I've done that with patients and I've seen them through, when they were young and now they're going to college. It's very, very impactful and so fulfilling. But I tell you, nothing beats taking care of those kind of kids where I made such an impact, made their lives better. And they say to me that I am the only doctor that probably remember so
That's amazing.
fondly.
It's amazing.
So fondly.
Right,
And
yeah.
it's not the dentist.
Well, no,
You know,
the thing
it's
is,
not-
like, you
yeah.
are special in their life because you found a special problem that they had, whatever that special, or solution, and you've given it to them and you've made their life better.
Yeah.
I look at that. So you're happy as a doctor. She's happy as a doctor. I'm happy as a business owner. And I'm like, she's making more money. That is cash.
Well,
And right. So it's net new revenue coming into the clinic, into the practice. That is, instead of getting paid $40, you're getting paid 30, you're getting paid thousands of dollars, okay, for one patient. Yes, of course you have to
do
you
a
have to do a
lot
lot of
of
work.
work,
I
but you
get
have to
that.
be,
But it's
you're
one,
going to do work,
and you're
right?
going to do work anyway. You
Yeah.
might as well. Great book. 10x is easier than 2x, which is absolutely true. You're working the same amount, maybe even harder for that $40 exam or $80 exam, and might as well work that same hard work for a higher value. So your clinic is getting, and then the other big thing is
Staff
you're now
retention.
staff retention, but your business is more valuable. So your business
Yeah.
is so much more valuable today than it was before you started doing pivot to specialty care, because you were not being commoditized. You didn't care if another doctor opened up down the street from you,
Well, yeah, because I've built a
because
moat around me.
you built a moat around you, and you did it because you pivoted into specialty care. So let's share some learnings about that. So number one, have to have a process. You have to know which niche you want to go after, right? Second is you've got to understand it's the
You've got to make your life easier with technology.
right,
Technology.
right.
Use the principle, psychology principle, and the technology to make it your life easier and get better
Yeah,
conversions, reach more people, make more impact with
yeah,
patients,
yeah,
and serve them better and serve your family and yourself better.
yeah.
That's,
And the third thing I would say is it's about them. Fall in love with your customer
and their
and
problem.
their problem, not your solution.
Mm-hmm.
Example, we would say we had the best videos and they were on our website. They were on our website, her doctor
Yeah.
website. And guess what? We were so proud of these videos, but nobody looked at those videos because they were like, it's your website. I don't even remember the name of your website. How am I supposed to find it? Whatever. And then when we started texting these patients the videos on their phone, that's when everything changed, is because it got closer to them and we cared about them, not like go to my website, Mr. and Mrs. Patient.
Mm-hmm.
It's like nobody like, no, I'm not gonna go to your site. You send me stuff. You want
Yeah.
me, you want to educate me, you gotta educate me.
Yeah. Well, there's another principle. It's called the proximity principle.
Yeah.
So when when somebody is in 4 feet with they have more of an impact
Yeah.
with you. They have more of an influence with you.
Right.
So when you have your face on this screen and they're watching it at bedtime, you're making that connection. That proximity principle is working really well on the background that you don't even know.
Right.
So there's so many reasons why videos will cut down your time, chair time,
Yeah.
make more of an impact and conversion with patients.
Yeah. So and then the result of all of this system has been, so we built this system and, so the most important impact of the system is for you as a doctor, you're able to see fewer patients,
Quality patients.
quality
Not
patients.
I do tougher things. Myopia is not easy for 10 years. Roadblocks come in, things happen with lenses and their corneas and with the dryness with the corneas, all of that stuff. But it's so powerful and it's so
The impact
fulfilling.
the impact
Yeah.
has been more fulfilled. You have a lot more fun. I remember, when we first, I think it was like 4 years ago,
My
or 3
dream
years
was to go on vacation for 2 weeks at a time.
and we went to Paris, and somebody wanted to buy a bag and some okay, don't get me started on that. So she was able to finally get that super bag from the Paris boutique that she wanted to buy. And you went to Fiji, jumped off of airplanes in the last few years. You had more vacation time, or I would say vacation time, more time traveling than I have in my
You're
years.
living life.
You're living life, which is important, right? It's like makes it more meaningful. So you've had more meaningful conversations and, connections with patients, more impact, better quality of life, more time off and away, and you've built a moat around your business.
Yes.
And that was the result of all of this. And for me, I saw you as more meaningful, deeply engaged in something you're really passionate about, which is patient care. And from a business perspective, I'm
Well,
happy.
that's when your business,
Yeah.
you had that idea where, if
Yeah.
you're,
Yeah.
if
So
we can make an impact
yeah, we can
for
make
other people.
right, right, exactly. So we wanted to make an impact and help other people. But, I think the most important thing is that it's possible. It's possible to pivot into specialty care. And, it's through education and understanding that, yourself, your psychology and the patient psychology. And then third is action, putting into place, the tools to educate patients, a process by which you do it. And then last thing, I just want to last couple of things here. I think also your language changed. You became simpler in the way you educate patients and you talk to patients, right? Like instead of complicating things, you kind of relate to them in a simple way. No?
I mean, well, I actually don't even really talk about, I don't know, myopia as much as I talk about their parent problem.
Right.
And that I'm your guide. I can help you solve this. You don't have to worry about this. I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And I give them sort of the guarantee. So really don't really talk. yeah, the simplicity is that I become now able to just become a human because the videos are doing the job for
Right,
me,
right.
talking about the science and talking about all of that other stuff. And I
Yeah.
don't have to talk to them. I just have to kind of be a human and say,
Yeah.
you know what, this eye stuff I can take care of, so you
Yeah.
don't have to do that for your child, and I'll see him through, I'll see her through, through when they graduate high school.
Yeah.
And I kind of see their body language, and they take a sort of
Deep
like a
breath.
deep breath,
Yeah.
sit
Yeah.
back in
Yeah.
their chair and says, okay, you
Yeah.
know what,
Yeah.
I
I
can
got you.
I can trust you.
But that happens. That's a patient who's ready to buy,
Mm-hmm.
like immediately. And they're ready to buy because you've enhanced the problem for them in a way that they understand it and they understand like why this is happening to
Yeah.
me, why the solution might be a treatment might be useful for me, why should I sign up with you, right? You've educated them mostly about that.
And the pain of not doing taking that decision also, you have to kind of show them the pain of, well, we have a video called What If We Do
What if you do
Nothing,
nothing?
right?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
You have to show them the good vision, but you have to show them the other path, the pain.
Right.
So
What if you don't do
people
things?
get pulled by pain and pleasure, the balance between pain and pleasure. So the pleasure has to be more, and the pain has to be really, really like more to
Like, what if I do nothing?
on that
People,
journey,
yeah,
on
because
that path.
yeah, but you're 100% right. It's because human beings are kind of in the middle. We're all fine. So what's going to help us change and interrupt that pattern and to take action is pain or desire.
Mm-hmm.
And so like I hate my life. I want to change. Like what was painful for you was that Google review and that, not having vacation. So you
Mm-hmm.
changed as a result of I am sick and tired of being sick and tired. I'm sick and tired of my practice that's being commoditized every day. Have so much more competition. I'm not making enough money. I'm not getting reimbursement from these insurance plans. These plans are not paying me enough for all the work that I do as a business owner and as a doctor, as a parent, as a husband, wife. So all that pain you change because you made a decision.
Mm-hmm.
And so patients have to do the same thing. They have to have some pain, like, yeah, if you do nothing with this treatment, this is going to happen. But you have to educate them on that.
Yeah.
So they get there when you educate them. I think that's the key message. So I hope this was helpful. Any last tip you want to share, Shefali, Dr. Miglani?
Well, I mean, you just have to believe that your life can be different and that you can execute change in your life, and whatever you want in your life can happen. You just have to take the right steps and just go on that journey. Have faith. Faith. Faith is fear and faith are the same two sides of the same coin. Fear is just fear undirected, and faith is fear directed. So
Yeah.
you just have to have faith.
I love it. I love that faith piece. I'm more, like you gotta have a plan, bro. Okay, you gotta have a plan. And the plan is, don't push. It's not about pushing, marketing, or selling. It's really about education. Education with the right words, right things, right process. And that we've built that system. And that's kind of how we learned. But we learned it from making all those mistakes and so on. But it's really about the plan you put in place. What's the plan? If you're going to shift into private pay specialty care, you can do this in like 90 minutes, right? Like, what's the process? Number two is, what's the language? How are you going to do this differently? And the third is, how are you going to educate patients with videos that really compel them to understand the problem and then understand you're the expert and you're the solution. So those are the three steps that we recommend is like the process, the language, script that you might want to use, and then the video and the automation, super, super powerful. So I'm Bob Miglani.
I'm Dr. Shefali Miglani.
Thank you so much. Have a great rest of the day. Hopefully this was useful. Have a
Thank
great day.
you.
Take care.
Bye
Bye.
bye.